Sezno, when you're doing this music shit, there will be a time where you play live and you feel absolutely humiliated on a stage. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but I am saying that it is like a necessary evil. It is a necessary experience, especially early on. There will always be times where you like hit a wall, but there will be like a first time that you're on a stage and you just feel like awful. You feel humiliated. You feel humiliated in ways that you never felt before. And that one is going to be especially brutal. But everybody goes through this. You have to go through this. So this is an instance of that happening to me. So this was a long time ago. I was like 17 when this happened. So I was in a band at the time. It wasn't really like a live ensemble necessarily. It was more like we would get together and we would like make music. At this point, it was really early on and it was like we were a duo still. I was in high school and there was somebody in my class who was aware that like I was in this band, and this person was involved in this like improv troupe, and that person invited us to perform at their next like improv performance. But we weren't like gigging a lot, so this was our first opportunity to perform in like months and months. So we said yes and exchanged all this info over email and stuff like that. And we were told it was going to be more of like a mellow vibe, basically like seated. You know, people were there to primarily to watch this improv troupe, but we would like fill in the spaces in between their performance. The night of the show, we head out there. I think we each had like a small amplifier with our instruments. I was on guitar and I was singing. And we get to the show and we start setting up and like people are like filing in, sitting down. A lot of parents that are there to see like their kid in this improv troupe or whatever. And we get there and we discover in the space there's no PA. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me at that point as like a 17-year-old, like I didn't immediately understand the implications of that problem. There was no PA in the room. And we didn't realize that like nobody was there to treat this like a gig. So there was like no sound check. We were expected to solve everything ourselves. I believe they provided a single microphone for us, for me on vocals, but there was no fucking PA. So the solution that we came up with was I had this very small, kind of shitty guitar amp. I guess technically it's a bass amp. And there was an aux input on this amplifier. And we had some kind of converter that could convert like an XLR signal from a mic into that aux signal. So I was sitting on this amp on stage, 17-year-old me, thinking that I could play the guitar, ran through the amp, and also sing into a microphone going in like aux input, like headphone jack input, and have that be audible also coming out of there. Needless to say, turned it all the way up and still all that was audible was my guitar, vocals completely inaudible. And it became just more and more obvious that like, you know, this was not a problem that anybody had foreseen, and that if anybody was supposed to foresee this, it was supposed to be us. After a while, it was like, okay, I guess we have to start playing. And the way that they did it was our set was going to fill in like the gaps. So we were going to be like the intro, and then the improv troupe would do like half their set, and then we would come on for like another 15-20 minutes to do their intermission. So we begin and it sounded terrible because you can't hear my vocals at all. After the first song, all these like parents that are not there for music, they're there for like this improv troupe, they start saying all this stuff like, hey, like we can't hear you. We can't hear your vocal. Turn your vocal up. And of course at this point I know what the problem is, so I like every time I'd be like, oh, like, we'll fix it, and, like, go to the amp and, like, twist the knobs, even though it was, like, all the way up. And, of course, it doesn't make a fucking difference. So we continue to play, and, like, the problems don't improve. We don't sound good at all. And after every song, again, they'd be like, yeah, hey, we can't hear you. And just the longer we were in that state, just the more, like, unbearable and humiliating it became, because there was, like, nothing we could do about it. And we basically, like, slowly watched this group of like parents that are just annoyed that they have to sit there and like listen to our music gradually become less and less interested until they were just like completely ignoring us like talking amongst themselves. And of course I was 17 years old or whatever, so like it was impossible for me to not like overthink all of this. Being on this like well-lit stage, debuting these songs that I was kind of like proud of, these like this like new material that I was excited about, and nobody was paying attention. Horrible vibe. We looked like idiots up there is what I thought. I think for the second portion, for like the intermission or whatever, we came back on stage and I was like, hey, like we're not gonna use the microphone, so I'm just gonna like turn my guitar down and I'll just sing without the microphone. And pretty much like nobody gave a shit at that point. And like the entire time through that second set, like people were like just like talking amongst themselves or like walking out. It was awful, bro. It was like, what are we doing here? Why did we accept this? Like, I can't believe this. And I guess the added humiliation was like, I think it was the first time I truly felt like, dang, like I really know nothing about this. There's a great deal that I don't know and that I'm not prepared for. And I was like, I felt really naive in that moment. And of course, like there are many instances after that where I felt that same thing very acutely. And there's probably more times where I'll feel like that. But the problem with doing a live thing is that usually there's other people involved and you're kind of like ultra self-conscious about what you're doing. And it was just unbearable, bro. I felt terrible. I felt like I went home that night going like, bro, I never want to fucking play another show again. That was horrible. I don't know what that even was. And obviously like I played more shows after that and some were better and some were bad. But all that to say, if you're early on making music or you have had that experience where you felt like that, like I feel like that's totally normal. I feel like you have to go through that experience of like feeling kind of humiliated and feeling naive and going like, okay, wait, something didn't work here. And I don't know as much as I think I do. It feels fucking terrible in the moment, but realistically, like, you have to go through that to make progress, I think. Anyway, yeah, I just, like, remembered that happened today, so I felt like making a video about it. Much love to you all. Keep grinding, keep doing your thing, keep making your music, making your art. Peace.